We are here again, and wonderful information and participation from ADP with Shavine Jackson Self and Michelle Saywell. We thank you so much for coming again with part two in this series. And this today we're discussing hiring and employee engagement. I think that those are crucial elements because without our people, we cannot grow as a business. So, without further ado, I will bring in the presentation here, and then I'll let you guys take it away.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah, for a beautiful introduction. My name is Shavine. I'm a district manager here at ADP. I specialize in everything small business related. And this is my coworker, Michelle.
Well, good morning, everyone. Michelle Saywell here. I'm a applied mathematician by training, but a part of our PEO division here at ADP, and looking forward to sharing some very useful information with you this morning. Can we have an advancement? I think, yeah. So we just did introductions and then one more.
Perfect. Okay, so top 5 hiring and engagement categories. As a business owner, as you're looking for the top talent and how to make sure everything is running efficiently and putting time back into your day, the most important categories are recruiting and hiring, wage and hours, benefits and leave, and handbooks, policies, and performance management. A lot of those things seem a lot of tedious to a lot of owners. However, it's really pivotal for your day-to-day operation to run efficiently. Next slide, Sarah. Okay. This is essentially why job descriptions are so important. Like why everyone's asking, like, why are job descriptions so important? I mean, you want to know, every potential candidate wants to know what the job expectations are, the list of responsibilities, so that there's no gray areas in it, and reduces you having to waste time or proper funding that you use in your recruitment process to find the most qualified candidate. So being able to list all the responsibilities and then making sure that any unemployment claims or any of that or termination issues are avoided. Hiring, identifying like the essential functions of the job and qualifications needed for the role. So if you're looking specifically for an administrative person, you wouldn't want someone that's just looking to, be actually active at the location, or, looking for some type of non-administrative duties and not have the expectations of what their day-to-day responsibilities are, or being able to have the tenured experience needed to handle all of the back-end operation things, which are the most essential. And the next thing for why job descriptions are so important is for pay and performance. Making sure you're able to set clear expectations for your employees. That way, when it comes to evaluating and the company's goals from a bigger scope, down from what your goals are and your financial goals and the revenue.
Unmute.
Okay.
So good to have a backup, right?
Quick
so good to have a backup
change there. So our apologies for that.
But continuing on, making compensation decisions. All of this is very pivotal for your potential candidate to have an idea as to what you're paying, the expectations, and what growth there is, and the different things and metrics that the business offers, and see if they're a good fit for it, as well as to see, for you as an owner to save time and see if they're a good fit for it, and make sure that they're able to identify training needs and specific qualifications in general. Next slide, Sarah. Yeah, so job descriptions. You want to create a job description that has all the points and post it on multiple job sites, in social media. That's something that we help with. However, a lot of the Indeed, ZipRecruiters and everyone else also has the capability of doing so. LinkedIn has become a more popular, word of mouth type of platform. So that's also a great way for you to post specific job descriptions without spending too much out of pocket if needed. And then the next thing is like, an interview guide to stay on top of the troubles, right? You want to be able to properly monitor each step of each candidate that you potentially are looking to hire, and then have a HR expert right at your fingertips. So, and aside from, once it's a lot in general, finding the most qualified candidates is a lot because you got to put the job description out there. You have to then, based on the pool of people that are interested, by you setting the proper expectations to them, then you have to interview. And with the interviewing, like you want to make sure that you're able to identify, like, hey, is this person going to be a good fit? So, and also able to uphold specific expectations where it's not any discriminatory practices occurring. But I mean, okay, once we get past those two very pivotal steps, you want to make sure that you're doing the proper screenings for your potential employee, right? To reduce any type of risk that it'll cause you. So you want to do a background check. I mean, I would have never thought about like how important a background check is, but you want to make sure you have a trusted staff and employees and a team joining to make sure that, again, you later along the line don't avoid any type of legal actions or, again, big risks that might seem very small now. Background checks are essential. So, I mean, making sure that this person doesn't have any type of, poor list of any type of behavior or whatever the case may be, to avoid like you coming into some type of issue later along the line. And then, and then the next thing would be making sure that when your employees go into the first day, they have it in a handbook. So ensuring that everything, and if they need help with finding, reaching out to someone if they feel uncomfortable in the workplace, set expectations of the hours worked, what they're doing, which all essentially is discussed when you're initially going through the hiring process. That's why it's very pivotal to make sure you're setting the right expectations and letting them know the day-to-day responsibilities. But the handbook, from a compliance standpoint, is so that you as a business owner are protected, and having that you went over all of this in your whole processes of onboarding the employee and setting the proper expectations. Next slide.
Kind of before we go through that, just like each one of these are kind of things that, because see, it's like, job description, help with, okay, interview, to stay out of trouble, and need HR expert, need help with, hello, background check, okay, where I go, help, hello, and so the employee handbook, help, hello. So it's like all of these pieces are really things that kind of really hamper or like overwhelm an employer. And it seems to me it's great to be able to have these tools to access to assist with this. I just really think that it's really essential and important to know that yes, these are the things that are needed and are essential for hiring and managing employees, but it's also too great to know that you have assistance and help with this. That I'm sorry, I just needed to kind of like put an extra little exclamation point on that, because the last thing we want employers to be is overwhelmed by all this stuff.
Right.
But know that you do have help with this. Okay. Off my soapbox.
And thank you for adding on to that point. But yes, I completely understand. Like, as a small business owner, you're pulled in so many different directions. And something that may seem so small now and just so, unimportant at the time, can later along the lines really incur an expense that you didn't anticipate to spend, or, a major inconvenience. So that's why it's important from then setting expectations, or, hey, and if you don't have something in place, that's completely fine. Now that you're aware and the resources are accessible to you, get something in place.
Right.
There's so many different resources that you'd be able to utilize that. But the main point is that you've worked so hard to create your business, establish, and all of the incorporations and everything. Doesn't matter what stage you're in, it's timely. It takes, it's timely. It's costly at some point in certain states. So making sure that from the very beginning, or from now when you acknowledge that, I gotta
Right.
fix some hiccups, you're able to do so. And it's actually interesting because actually 6% of like screened candidates have like one or more criminal conviction on their background. I mean, family, friends, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you're still able to protect your business.
Mhm.
You know, at the end of the day, you've worked so hard to make sure all of this is in place and running efficiently and set up from the ground up, and you plan on growing. So, background checks, making sure that that's in place, even if it's the most simple background check. There's so many different locations and resources accessible to you that can make it not too too costly, and also you're covering bases. So, and then next
Next
slide.
slide. Come on. Here we go.
Yeah, and then so touching on, the employee handbook, we talked about like after you've hired, you set the right expectations with the job descriptions you recruited, you decide, okay, based on like what I need and where I'm currently at, this is the ideal candidate for me. Like, how am I going to make sure that I'm setting expectations and all of the things that I need to are in place? An employee handbook, it's important to have. You want to make sure compliant policies, rules, and expectations are there. You don't even have to do a full, thorough, in-depth, but provide like the most basic information about the company, such as like hours of operation, the amount of hours, like the job title, responsibilities of what it entails. If you offer any benefits or whatever the case may be, you can go ahead and add that in there. If not, you can keep it out, but it really helps demonstrate fairness and compliance with employment laws, especially in a state like California, where it's super employee friendly. And you want to make sure that there's not anything that someone's able to go in and be like, well, everything is all fine and dandy, and then one day they're like, you decide that you want to establish boundaries, tell them like, hey, you've been late consistently this many times, like, we need to go ahead and have a conversation about it. And simply that person could essentially be like, well, what do you have in place? I mean, unfortunately, you would never know until it happens to you, but they can be like, well, what did you have in place to set the expectation? Like, I don't have anything that tells me like, I was supposed to be here at this time. Like, this is what I have to me. If there was any issues or I had to call out, like, who do I contact? Or, just different things that are very, okay, well, it's fine. It's my cousin. They'll know type of later along the lines, to make sure that you are doing fair practices and are in compliance with employment laws. And then, I mean, again, like meeting requirements to provide certain information in writing. You want to protect your business. I cannot stress this enough, like, especially in today's times and economies, like there's so many things changing, and everyone is trying to collect their coins for what was lost in the pandemic. So it's really important that you're up to date with the most compliance requirements and just most standard things that you need for your specific industry. But also keeping track of when you first hire the employee, setting expectations, them signing off on it. If anything changes, you're having those conversations. And then, it most importantly, like it helps your supervisors or yourself, navigate through relation issues. So you're reporting, hey, this incident happened, that incident happened. I set the expectations for you when you first onboarded. We spoke in the employee handbook. It stated like, this is the hours of operation. Let's have the conversation. So no one can go to, the EEOC and say, hey, I've been, unfairly treated in the workplace.
Mhm.
And then next slide. Yeah. And then next section is employee engagement.
So, just roll back one actually for me. So the next section that we'll cover is employee engagement, which definitely goes into hiring. It kind of pivots to that. So after you hire someone, you want to make sure that they stay. You went through all of that effort and expense to bring someone to your organization, to your firm, to your company, and you want to make sure that they're engaged once they get there. So you may ask, well, what exactly is employee engagement? I like to think of it as their enthusiasm and dedication to their job and to you as their employer, right? So kind of just having that definition in mind, like how engaged are my employees? Do they like coming to work? Because that ultimately, as we go through these next few slides, will show you how it impacts your bottom line. Can you advance to the next slide for me? So this next slide kind of just discusses why engagement matters. And then again, not only from an expense standpoint from hiring, right? You don't want to lose the people that you've hired. According to Office Vibe, there's a strong correlation or relationship between engagement and employee performance. So you tend to be, as a business owner, more profitable. You have greater productivity from your employees if they're engaged, more innovation. People think of things, of doing things in a better way, and then share it with their employer. Hey, boss, I thought about this. And, they're engaged. They're interested in making things better in the workplace for everyone. And so they'll come up with great ideas and innovations to help your business. And then your customers are more satisfied. Happy employees yield to happier customers because your employees are treating your customers right and fair, and everyone's happy. And then obviously it goes to my earlier point of retention. Engaged, happy employees tend to stay, right? That you retain them, that you don't lose them to maybe your competitor. So you want to definitely think about engagement as it relates to your business and the importance of it. On the other side here, Gallup actually did some quantification for us. So they determined that the less an employee is engaged, from an employer standpoint, 25% of your turnover is going to go up, right? You're going to have, the more an employee is engaged, you're going to have 25% less turnover. So that's huge, right? You don't have to go out and recruit again.
Yeah.
And then the more an employee is engaged, then you're going to have 37% less absenteeism. People are not going to call out. I mean, can you imagine, you're trying to run your business and then no one shows up for work? Or the fewer that show up for work are heavily taxed because the ones that didn't show up, now all their work falls on them to make sure that the operations are still going. And then lastly, the more employees are engaged, according to Gallup, you'll have a drop of 48% in safety incidents. So that also impacts your workers' compensation, right?
Mm.
And that insurance. So
Wow.
happier employees, engaged employees lead to these bad things being reduced. But let's go on the other side. According to Gallup, more engaged employee workforce leads to 10% increases in customer satisfaction. That's great. You want your customers to be satisfied so that they tell other people that they know they had a great experience, and then maybe refer your business to their friends and family. Also, it leads to 21% in more productivity. So your employees are more productive when they're engaged. And lastly, your bottom line, right? It's why you're in business. How profitable are you? You will, according to Gallup, you're 22% more profitable. So that's why engagement matters. Let's go to the next slide. This next one I thought was kind of interesting. It's an engagement profit chain. So let's just look at this. So engaged employees, and pardon me for reading to you, but I think it's worth doing so. Engaged employees lead to higher service, quality, and productivity. And then, like a chain, that leads to higher customer satisfaction. And then that chain links to another link, which increases your sales. So that's repeat business, referrals. People are happy. They're like, hey, I got a great experience. And they're going to tell everybody they know they had a great experience. Or if someone's asking, hey, where can I go to get X done? A new fence put up for my house, or, a great place to go out to eat, or a nice vacation spot. They're going to think, okay, where did I have a good experience? I had it at this place, and then that's who they're going to refer. And that leads to what? Higher profits, because you've got referrals coming from, prior customers, right? So your sales increase, your profits increase, and then that ultimately leads to, if you're a public company, higher shareholder returns. So, and your stock price goes up. And that's if you're a public company. If you're private, it's just going to stop at the level before this, which is just leads to higher profits. I think we'd all take that. So, and just a couple of other statistics that are here on the side. According to Towers Perrin research, companies with engaged workers have 6% higher net profit margins. So that just leads to, from all of the things that were shared, your, turnover, people leaving, your retention, those things cost you. So when you're able to keep your people because they're engaged, your profit margins are higher. And then lastly, according to Connexa research, engaged companies have 5 times the higher shareholder returns over 5 years. So again, it just having engaged employees just leads to better outcomes overall. Let's move to the next slide. And then let's kind of define or discuss what employee engagement kind of looks like, or what are some of the quantifiers that helps an employee become engaged. And this is kind of broken down by generations. So millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers. And you can see that the millennials, they kind of care about compensation, as all do the other generations, but look at that. They care least about compensation. I just find that very interesting, right? So why is that? What else do they care about? Benefits. That helps them be more engaged. And you can see also by generation how it increases in importance. And then flexibility. How many people are working from home or have a hybrid schedule where they do some work at home and maybe they go to the office on some of the days, not all of the days? Just having that flexibility means a lot to all the generations, right? So that also increases your employees' engagement, their enthusiasm for working at your firm or your company, their ability to grow. Hey, is there a clear path outlined in your handbook, as Shaveen discussed earlier, that illustrates and clearly shows them, if I do X, Y, and Z, that leads to more growth for myself as a person. Maybe I want to go towards leadership, or maybe I just want to stay on my same path, but it leads to, a bigger compensation for me if I do take these steps. But it's clearly defined and outlined, so they can see how they can grow at your company. That's important for your employees to see, so that they are also engaged, because they're going to make their own plan for their own growth if you clearly outline it on how they can get from point A to point F. And then recognition. When they do something great, the more engaged employees are getting recognized by their employers. And you'd be surprised how important that becomes to people, just being recognized by their employer amongst their peers, so that their peers see that they're being recognized. That tends to increase the level of employee engagement as well. And then acquisition, how you brought them on board. Was that a smooth process? Was it like pulling teeth once they, said, yes, I'll come work for you? How was that acquisition process from beginning to end? Even when they start applying, do they have to fill out a paper form? And then do they need to go find paper documents? Can they upload them? Can they take a picture of it and then upload that picture? How easy is that acquisition for them to come on board to your company? If you've not modernized at all, then that acquisition process can be a toil. And if they talk to their friends and peers and they're like, hey, over here, it was real easy. It was like seamless. I just did this, this, and this, and it was boom. Or I did it from my phone. It was convenient. That also leads to greater employee engagement. And then lastly, social responsibility. Is your company touting, hey, you know what? Climate change, we're in record heat across the whole globe. Is your company doing things to reduce, carbon emissions? And You've got that on your webpage, and you're telling and putting in things like having behind us, you can't see this, there are 2 bins, one for recycling, one for trash. Are you doing things like that in your workplace to show your employees that you're socially responsible, that you care about the earth that we all live on? I mean, something as simple as that could lead to more employee engagement in your workplace. And then ultimately, that chain of events lead to higher profits, which hits your bottom line. So with that, we'll take some questions if there are any from the audience. You can advance to the next slide.
I'd just like to say that it was pretty informative and or enlightening when, like, you were going back to in that last slide, and you were talking about growth, for instance, and that how are you properly illustrating that in your handbook, you know? So it's just like there are some of the things that you really need to be knowledgeable about or give thought to when you even putting together your handbook that encourages that employee engagement. There's just so many little nuggets and you know things that you kind of have to pick up on that really go to enhancing the whole experience. So you really wouldn't some things you may not really think about. Do you guys help to I guess to enlighten clients that all these different areas which you should be thinking about?
So in my division, which I briefly said at the beginning when I introduced myself, it's a PEO, and that stands for Professional Employer Organization. So my division, most certainly, because it's all encompassing, we co-pilot, if you will, with the business owner to make sure that all of their HR is covered, and we help you along the way, make sure all these things are done. So yes, you know, I think in one of our previous webinars, I said to the businesses out there that, hey, look, who you engage with to advise you is really key for your business, right? Because you can't possibly know everything all at once,
Right.
especially in a changing environment where if it can, it will change, especially here in California. I mean, just for example, in the 1st of January of 2023, there were, I think, 60 new employment laws that were put on the books in 17 states, including the District of Columbia.
Wow.
So, and in that previous webinar, I think the phrase I used was, you know, your ignorance of the law does not excuse you for any violations of the law.
Right. You know, I didn't know that is
hey,
not
I
an
didn't
excuse.
know,
Right.
and then be excused because you're still going to be held responsible
Yeah.
for any actions that you take. So having key partners that stay abreast of all the changes, because it's really difficult to keep on top of those things, especially if you operate in more than one state. If you operate in 2 states, that's 2 different state laws that you got to keep on top of, along with the federal, along with any municipal laws, right? And it's just a lot to, you know, stay abreast of. So having key partners for, you know, payroll or like your overall HR strategy, you know, you want to make sure you pick a good partner that's going to stay on top of all that stuff for you.
And I think that's just the key a sentiment and thing that we want to convey today is because you're very busy doing your work in your business. And it really helps to have someone else kind of like thinking, working on and thinking of the things and reminding you of the things that you just don't have really time for most of the time. So
Very
yeah,
true.
thank you. Wonderful presentation. Unless there is a question in the chat or something, I don't have anything else at the moment, but these are just have been 2 essential webinar presentations that give you great insight into the really the crucial parts of your business because again, like I said before, without your employees, without the people who help to grow your company, work your company, you know, you're dead in the water. So,
Well, as you can clone yourself, right?
It's
yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
we've learned how to do that just
With
yet.
AI in the works, who knows?
ugly.
You know, but that's a scary thought. I wouldn't want to
Right.
see several of
Yes.
myself
Agreed.
out there.
Agreed.
But that's the point, though. You know, it's just in the best world, really. It's just really having somebody have your back, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I would just say that in our community, our Black community, a lot of times, we're unaware of all the requirements, like just that having that useful information, it's missing.
Hmm.
And so, I know Shavine feels just as passionate as I do about bringing the information to our community so that we too can make an informed decision
Right.
on how we move.
Right.
Do we take on this person, this partner? Do we have everything buttoned up?
Hmm.
Because I didn't even know about that, right? So, we both feel really passionate about just sharing the information so that our
Right.
Black businesses can then make informed decisions.
Hmm.
People have to make their own decisions. Sometimes you have to
Yeah,
do things until you can change it,
for
but
sure.
and hope that you're, not caught in the interim. But at
Hmm.
least you know what you're supposed to be doing, right? The
Hmm.
right way according to law and regulation. And then
Right.
you can move and make decisions accordingly.
Wonderful. Excellent. I think as far as our the BBA and being a partner with ADP and wanting to move forward, we're going to look to spotlight and on certain particular things that help to get people's attention to this to make them understand or just at least bring it to awareness of different things, and then that will then lead them to investigating more. But I love the last chart that you had in terms of the generations and how each one responds to different things. I was tickling inside when I saw flexibility for the millennials because I know for my son, I know that is a major one. But you do need to know who you're dealing with and where they're at, so you can understand how to go about that hiring process. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Know who you're hiring, right?
mhm,
Which
mhm,
can then help you hire.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much. I know that Shavine, you're going to be sharing also the next promotion or the benefits kind of things that we have to share to our members, and we'll be putting that out as well as posting a replay of this video. And we thank you so much for sharing this great information and joining us today. Is there anything else that you wanted to say in closing?
No, just thank you all for, joining. Very adding on to what Michelle said, I am very much passionate about making sure that we're able to get this information out. I mean, like in general, during the whole pandemic, the value of the Black dollar, like we're the reason why, and I don't mean to say this as if there's not other contributing factors, but we played a great role in the economy continue to
We
go on.
spend a
There's so
lot.
much value. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know. I just don't know who, gotta remain professional, not too biased. But we played such a pivotal role, and even in the day to day, like that the fact that we don't have access to certain information is actually like it's a great disadvantage, especially when you're starting up your business or you currently have your business processes going on. There's always room for improvement for you to save some coins, a dollar here, a dollar there, evaluate this, make sure you're protecting your business so that way we can build on, the generational wealth and everything that once before wasn't there.
Right.
Like it's very pivotal to make sure the key steps starting up that you have all that there for you. And if
Mhm.
not, and if you're not there yet, that's completely fine. But at least you're aware, you're informed. And when you decide that you're looking for business partners, employees, or who to bring on to your baby, your business,
Mhm.
you're able to go on ahead and plan accordingly and make the all informative decisions based on where you're at, and do like a side by side, apples to apples comparison as to like what makes sense for you right now and where you want to go and how to get that assisted and the resources that are there. So
Exactly.
if you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, if you're an ADP client or not an ADP client, but interested in different resources, hey, maybe you want to just do an evaluation and you're like, okay, let me see if I'm really maximizing on my cost savings, or like if I'm really operating feel free to reach out to like Michelle and myself. I'm here to help. I mean, it's not like it's free, it's not, it's free. By all means necessary, you don't have to, decide, oh, I'm going to stop, what I'm doing and switch on board. But at least you know that you went about and actually evaluating to see if you were doing what was best and most profitable for your business and yourself.
Right. Well, thank you, Jude and Charles, as well, for joining in today. And we will, like I said before, continue to push the information out. And thank you so much. And we'll return everybody to the rest of their day. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.